Let's check out the AYN Thor, a truly unique dual-screen handheld console that's launching soon. I was so excited to be home for the holiday that I just couldn't wait to unbox this upcoming dual-screen handheld. We're also going to compare it with all the other major handhelds out there, so let's get unboxing. The packaging is brand new. Oh, let's pull it out. We're in natural light here, so you can really get a good look at its overall appearance. Here's the AYN logo. Let's open it up, and inside here, there are a few cards for the AYN Thor, primarily detailing its technical specifications. Let's take out the tray. You'll find the certificate of conformity and the data cable. Here's an important note. This is a dedicated video output cable, not just a standard Type-C charging cable. It's crucial for video output, so be sure to keep it safe. And here's the main unit itself. This is the first release black color scheme. It features a matte finish on its surface. In typical daylight conditions, you can observe. Let's examine the finish of its A side, which, as expected, is made of conventional engineering plastic. Compared to other handheld consoles we've reviewed recently, its main objective here seems to be weight reduction. We'll verify the weight shortly. First, let's observe the functional elements. The entire device features a consistently rounded design. There's also a lanyard hole on the side, and the top hinge area, along with both the left and right shoulder buttons, all feature this rounded treatment. Regarding the back panel, because it uses Hall effect triggers, it's slightly recessed, making it a little thicker. That raised part is flush with the triggers, so when you place it on a table, it definitely won't press the buttons. Let's look at the function buttons on the side. At the bottom, there's the power button, a brightness key, a Type-C port that also handles video output, the super advanced headphone jack, and a TF card expansion slot. And interestingly, it has lanyard holes on both the left and right sides to suit your personal style. The heat dissipation unit on the backplate is quite large. Below it is an active cooling fan, which is essential for a high-performance handheld. The overall size of the device feels just right in hand, and we'll compare it to mainstream handhelds shortly. Let's move on to more details. We open it, and it's very smooth. After opening, removing the liner, you can see on the side here 1, 2, 3 segments. That means it has 3 different angle adjustments. As we unfold it from this perspective, I must say, this truly highlights the advantage of an aesthetically pleasing glass panel. The overall seamless look of the bottom section is exceptional. From top to bottom, it really looks like a large, continuous piece of glass. My personal opinion is that to the naked eye, it genuinely looks quite beautiful. The central hinge part, when viewed from the side and the device is laid flat, the hinge section protrudes. The main reason for this is actually to protect the buttons and joysticks below. So, on a scale of 1 to 100 for aesthetics, what score would you give it? The overall button layout is rather spacious. Firstly, there are asymmetrical joysticks and buttons on both the left and right sides. To minimize the device's size, everything is aligned vertically, meaning the buttons and joysticks are on the same linear plane. One might be concerned about potential interference, such as buttons obstructing the joysticks. However, because the total surface area remains quite substantial, the top and bottom are quite spread out, so when we hold the device normally, our thumb won't noticeably touch the joystick. Additionally, the joystick has a very distinct depression, with the joystick cap protruding only slightly. Just a small portion of the joystick cap is visible on top, as the majority is recessed below, minimizing obstruction and interference. Regarding other features, the button layout includes one each for the top, bottom, left, and right, effectively utilizing all available space. They are spaced out and well utilized, rather than tightly crammed into a single location. These 2 non-fan buttons at the bottom are actually side protrusions, mainly to safeguard your screen. You see, after closing it, the upper screen in this side area doesn't actually have an outwardly protruding bezel. Instead, it relies on the raised part below to interlock, thereby protecting the side buttons and joysticks. If you view it from this angle, there is absolutely no possibility of the joystick contacting the screen. The same applies to the buttons. There is a distinct space provided. I'm applying a bit of pressure here, and the overall resilience is quite impressive, unless you intentionally exert excessive force. At the side, near the bottom, where the trigger positions are, it features 3 distinct stops, 1, 2, and 3. The most used positions. This should give us a good viewing angle when we're playing, perhaps slightly tilted. Next, let's talk about the feel. First, this machine isn't particularly large. Also, for handhelds, a really important indicator is weight. It weighs 366 grams. With the factory-provided screen protector, it's about 366 grams. Without it, it's 365. As I mentioned, the bottom part here is very beautiful, with an excellent integrated aesthetic. It's a very attractive glass panel, but preventing fingerprints on it is quite challenging. That's simply the cost of its beautiful appearance. In this situation, we might consider purchasing their original integrated screen protector, which would provide a better fit, and if we look, installing this protector won't obstruct anything. However, regarding tempered glass protectors, it's important to note that they do add a certain thickness. If you are particularly concerned about the key key travel and wish for a higher key travel, this tempered glass protector might not be suitable, as its edge will slightly obstruct the key travel. So for me, I might not apply a screen protector. But if it's for protecting the device, then a screen protector is definitely necessary. Let me ask everyone, will you apply it or not? Next, let's quickly boot up and enter the system settings interface, which we'll quickly skip over. Both the upper and lower screens are touch enabled. For the first launch, it's certainly recommended to use the default Android. Then once your games are installed, switch to the AYN Thor's default launcher. Regarding the screen refresh rate, the upper screen features a 120Hz high refresh rate. You can adjust the color temperature to a warmer or cooler setting based on your personal needs. We begin by demonstrating it with a light colored background. The top display is a 6-inch screen with no rounded corners. It's straight-edged. Below it is a smaller 3.92-inch screen, nearly 4 inches, and this small screen's perimeter. The perimeter of this screen has a very slight rounded corner, which you can see more clearly here. This one doesn't have rounded corners, but the bottom one does. You can see it much clearer here. Now, let's examine the applications. The software essentially offers two primary applications. One is accessible from the side. When you swipe over, it functions identically to other compatible Android open-source handheld consoles, including button adaptation and mapping, among other features. There's no need to elaborate on these. They are all the same. This time, a dual-screen control center has been added below, enabling us to manage both the upper and lower screens simultaneously. For instance, you could be playing a game on the top screen while watching a video on the bottom. If we tap the upper screen, the focus will shift there, allowing us to play the game as usual. If a video is playing on the lower screen, its audio will continue to play normally, but the upper screen cannot be operated at this time because your interaction is focused on the lower screen. Additionally, you can also manage the sound on both the upper and lower screens. For instance, if the lower screen's volume is currently maxed out, we can disable its sound and enable the upper screen's sound, so you'll only hear audio from the top screen. If we activate sound on both screens, then both the upper and lower screens will produce audio simultaneously. If we turn them off, both will be muted. That's essentially how it functions. Following this, we have brightness controls. We can lower the brightness of both the upper and lower screens at the same time, or just the upper screen's brightness, bringing the top screen to its lowest level. Conversely, we can dim only the lower screen's brightness, which also lessens the bottom screen's light. This implies you can use this control center to separately manage the upper and lower screens, or even opt to display only the upper screen or only the lower screen. I won't go into detail about task switching, and for the upcoming test, here you can choose either 60 or 100 frames per second. Also, you can lock the touch to operate only the upper screen, disabling the lower, or switch between both screens via touch. I won't go into fan performance. The controller is truly faultless. The joystick light colors can be changed normally, and this time, the vibration has been adjusted to be a bit more nuanced than on previous Android open-source handheld consoles. Of course, it still doesn't match a smartphone's level, but this configuration remains straightforward. We can play games on the upper screen while simultaneously watching videos on the lower screen. Furthermore, it includes some key minor settings. For instance, I can designate that a specific application only launches on one particular screen. To demonstrate, if we press and hold this video software and select Screen Startup, it will ask if you want it to start on both screens, just the upper screen or just the lower screen. If I choose to launch on lower screen only, then when I tap it, it will exclusively. It will open on the bottom screen, not the top. This allows us to designate less critical applications to reside solely on the lower display. Furthermore, it's configured to handle games that allow for simultaneous dual-screen tasks, such as idle games or those not demanding intricate controls. For example, I might be engaged in a game of chess on the upper screen while playing a card game on the lower, with both operating concurrently. In this scenario, the frequency of interaction for both screens is not as intense as it would be in an action game, which is ideal. At times, we can simply observe the main display while interacting minimally. This way, one game can be played on the upper screen, and another can be simultaneously operated on the lower screen. This setup is ideal for games that don't require intense control inputs. For action-packed games, I typically run them on the upper screen, dedicating the lower screen to music, web browsing, or videos, if both screens are engaged with less demanding activities. Then they can run simultaneously. For instance, I used to squeeze in another game during those few seconds after dying. Now with a dual screen, when you die on the upper screen, you can simply wait to respawn while continuing to play another game on the lower screen. Naturally, there are dedicated dual screen games like those from the famous NDS and 3DS dual screen consoles. For an 8 Gen 2 chip, emulating these is completely feasible. For detailed emulation results, you can refer to the official. There are some demo videos available, but I won't delve too deeply into those. Essentially, the dual screen handheld handheld console further refines the existing open-source handheld category. The tactile feedback of all the buttons is quite pronounced. The button feedback force adjustment is similar to previous Odin devices, with the force being slightly on the heavier side. I personally like this, but some might prefer a softer button feel. It really depends on individual needs. Now let's listen to the sound. This is the AYN. Odin 2, including its shoulder buttons on top. The press is tuned to be quite crisp. This is the previous Odin 2, and this is the previous Odin 2P. The 2P's button press is slightly lighter. You can barely hear it. For those familiar with other Odin devices, this machine's buttons will feel familiar, as the press is a bit heavier. However, I must remind you that because this is a dual-screen handheld console, its joysticks are recessed, so the small ring on the joystick's edge might It gets in the way just a little bit right here. If you're someone who is accustomed to sliding your thumb completely flat on the joystick, the edge might slightly obstruct you. However, if you typically use your fingertip to touch the joystick, then it won't affect you at all. It truly depends on everyone's individual usage habits. If you have the former habit, there might be a slight inconvenience. If you use it this way, there's absolutely no problem. AYN is indeed a very experienced manufacturer, having launched numerous products. So, you don't have to worry too much about the button tuning. What I really want to discuss is who this device is actually for. I already own a phone, so do I really need to purchase this? I already possess other Android open-source handheld consoles. Is it still necessary to buy it? What ecological niche does it occupy? First, let's consider the size. Let's bring out a popular previous Odin device, the Odin 2, which is also a 6-inch device. We'll place it here. You see, I've already turned up the brightness on the Odin 2, but in comparison, the AYN Thor is notably brighter, a distinction primarily due to its predecessor's LCD screen. Both devices boast a 6-inch main screen. However, when opened, the Thor incorporates an additional 3.92-inch secondary screen. This effectively combines two screens. If we fold it up and position it alongside the Odin 2 for comparison, the Thor is almost twice its size. It's small, with the joystick sections on both sides completely folded in. Now look at its thickness from the side. You'll notice that when it comes to portable thickness, the AYN Thor is actually slightly better than the Odin 2. That's because the Odin 2 excels with a larger grip, which enhances comfort. However, the AYN Thor, like almost all such dual-screen handheld consoles, focuses on portability while also safeguarding both your upper and lower screens. And if we consider the weight, let's examine the previous Odin. The AYN Thor weighs 423 grams. This means that compared to mainstream single-screen handhelds, and considering only the screen size, this dual-screen handheld console actually has an extra screen while maintaining the same upper screen dimensions. From a portability perspective, even with a larger screen, it's still 100 grams lighter, which makes it very comfortable to hold. Furthermore, in terms of portability, it's almost half the size of other devices, making it decidedly more portable. It's much more portable. If you take out any phone and place it next to this, its horizontal footprint is actually slightly smaller than a phone's, but it's certainly thicker. If you compare their dimensions this way, it's evident that this foldable, flip-style handheld console still offers many benefits. What are its downsides? Quite simply, it's the ergonomics. There's no grip here, so compared to these larger handhelds, the tactile feel just can't measure up. So this side-by-side comparison makes its advantages quite clear. A larger screen, more screens, greater portability, and lighter weight. There's only one problem. It doesn't feel as good as traditional, larger, controller-style handhelds. If you don't have a clear sense of this size, I'll compare it with almost all mainstream handhelds on the market, and you'll immediately understand its true position and whether it's worth buying. It will all become clear to you at once.